desirable or even obligatory to try to undermine fundamentalist beliefs. And my basic claim is when those beliefs are harmful, particularly to society or to others, or to the individual himself. Now, obviously, I'm assuming that I have some criteria of what's harmful and what's not, and then we get back to the philosophical question, which I'm not going to get into as I told you because I don't feel that I've formulated a full philosophical argument for the particular beliefs that I have as to what's moral or not. But assuming that a certain consensus in society that certain things, I think murder, but not these. So if the fundamentalism is leading to murder, well, I may not be able to come up with a secular, humanistic, fundamental, philosophical, convincing rationale for why murder is wrong. But it's basically a consensus across almost every society and culture. So if a fundamentalist Christian or Muslim or Jew justifies murder in the name of their fundamentalist religious beliefs, I think it's extremely important to do what we can to undermine those beliefs. On the other hand, there are many fundamentalists themselves who are highly moral and highly ethical, and many fundamentalist beliefs that are very positive socially. So one has to decide what are the conditions or the circumstances in which it is important to try to undermine fundamentalist beliefs and when not, and what are the cost benefits in that enterprise. And the sequel to the book that I just wrote is going to be how can our understanding of the ways in which people acquire and maintain religious beliefs and the ways in which people give up religious beliefs and commitments, how could that knowledge be used in a more systematic way to try to undermine those fundamentalist religious beliefs which lead to antisocial behavior.
Do you think the sum total of the Orthodox belief that the Torah is divine, that the sum moral total of this belief is positive or negative for the world?
Overall, I would say positive. I don't know about for the world, because the Orthodox world doesn't have that much of an impact on the rest of the world. But overall, I would say that the Orthodox communities in which I was raised and to which I still belong, I'm a member of an Orthodox shul, although I daven in other shuls as well. And I don't adhere to Orthodox ideology or doctrines or dogmas, but I was raised in an Orthodox environment, and there are many aspects of it I like: the communal, the values, the emphasis on the study, learning and thinking, etc. Although I don't think there's enough thinking going on in the Orthodox world nowadays. But there's a very long, strong intellectual tradition of analytic and critical and rational thinking. So I think overall, Orthodoxy has more positive than negative consequences. And I would like to either see, in fact, in the book, I think I have a section about what I call what can be appropriated from Orthodoxy by all Jews, that would also be rational and plausible and responsive to modern scholarship, whether it's biblical scholarship, modern science, whether it's natural sciences and social sciences, so that to make truth a more central value in communities of Orthodoxy, who are now, to a significant degree, compartmentalizing their ways of life from truth in the sense of empirical and logical, plausible arguments. I also have a long discussion in the book about different criteria that people have for truth, and I also noticed you had this very interesting interview with Mark Shapiro.
Yes.
Planning to write a book about you'll have to write to Mark, because I know he has a copy of my book, but in the book I do deal extensively with different attitudes to truth that different people have, and arguments as to why maybe reason and empiricism aren't the most important sources of truth. So, for example, you have the Jamesian notion of what really counts is the fruits of belief systems. And if a belief system leads to a better life for the individual or for the community, then that's like the truth that counts. That's kind of the argument of the pragmatists. I'm not fully convinced by that, but getting back to your question, I think there are many, many positive things about Orthodoxy, but negative things as well. And since I'm an academic and a scholar and teaching in an academic setting, My job is to try to understand religion in general and Judaism in particular, also to try to, what I feel, bring forth arguments that thoughtful people from within those communities will respond to in a way and say, Schimmel has some very valuable points over here. We have to think about these things. Maybe we have to restate or reformulate our theology or think of alternative ways to generate the very benefits that our Orthodox communities have, but not by continuing to espouse and to teach beliefs and that are false. Truth is also an important value, and traditional Judaism always claims that Chotamo Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Emet, that the seal of the Holy One, blessed be He, is truth. But I really don't see that value of truth manifested in Orthodox Judaism today.
I asked you if you saw the moral sum total flowing from this Orthodox belief as more positive than negative. I think you answered more positive.
I would say overall more positive, yes.
So you want to take away a belief that by your own analysis does more good than harm, and take away a belief that you admit in the early sections of your book, once you lost the belief, that you sacrificed considerable amount of joy, and so you want to take away joy in like many moral good things.
Well, first of all, the several responses to that. That was a very interesting point that you made about that, taking away the joy from others. I like the way you did that. Actually, remember, first of all, it wasn't like it was taken away from me in a certain sense because I was exposed as a teenager to biblical scholarship. I had also a thinking mind. I was being taught things that simply didn't seem to make much sense. So, to the extent that I am an individual with, cognitive abilities, which were actually being cultivated by the fact that I was studying Talmud all the time, and I was told to think, and in general raised in an environment of modern Orthodoxy where you're told to think, and that Orthodoxy is compatible with secular studies and with philosophy, so you're actually either encouraged or allowed to study all these things. So what can I do? I mean, I studied these things. I studied Hume, and I studied biblical scholarship. I studied evolution. I studied biology, and the conflicts were generated by the studying. It wasn't that I was looking to give up my faith. On the contrary, a major part of the struggle I had, and that I deal with extensively in the book also, what are the defense mechanisms that people use to protect their beliefs precisely because their beliefs are so and that's just the beliefs, it's the lifestyle, the values that go with the beliefs are so precious, have so many positive elements to them that they fear the loss of that. But it happened to me. Now, it's not that but also I point out that there were certain positives because I then acquired what I feel was a much greater intellectual freedom. I was released from certain constraints. I was allowed to think about things and think about ideas and expose myself to all kinds of literatures that from the Orthodox point of view were heretical and disparaged and disdained, but now I had the freedom to engage in these studies and in a more thoughtful and way. And in many ways, it's like if somebody, I was disillusioned by many aspects of the faith in which I was raised, and that's always painful. But on the other hand, it also can be a tremendous release and freeing experience because it opens up vistas of study and of experience that you wouldn't otherwise have been exposed to. It also gave me what I feel is a much deeper understanding and appreciation of both the Bible and of Judaism and how it developed. Now, as far as the moral thing, too, I don't think that if somebody gives up their belief in Torah and Shemayim, in Orthodox doctrines and dogmas, they're going to be really less moral or less ethical. I mean, sometimes it might happen, but overall, I don't think that's going to be the consequence. And for several reasons, one of which, because a lot of these ethical and moral values are also shared by non-Orthodox. Also, once you've been socialized into a certain ethical and moral value system, it becomes so deeply embedded in you that even if certain doctrines or dogmas on which it is presumably based no longer are compelling, you don't suddenly become immoral or unethical. So I don't really think that, at least the people who I've encountered,